So you've heard this clip from the Today Show where Bill sort of explains how he has to pay bills, and he's done some research, and people just like to hear me speak. What am I supposed to do? For even those of us who support capitalism and are happy for anybody who can make as much money as they can, this has to put Hillary in a very, very uncomfortable position.
Well, I think it does. And look, I don't think any of us fault ex-presidents going out and hitting the lecture circuit. That's what they do. The problem is when you look at the Clintons' financial trajectory, it is directly tied to the positions of power that his wife had. So, for example, I point this out in the book. Bill Clinton has given 13 paid speeches his entire career for which he was paid $500,000 or more. 13 of them. Of those 13, 11 occurred during those 4 years that his wife was Secretary of State. And these were payments made by individuals who had business sitting on Hillary's desk. And you could look at one or two of them and say, oh, well, it was just a coincidence. But when you see it repeated over and over and over again, Mike, it's just laughable to assert that somehow he became more eloquent in 2009. So these foreign entities suddenly figured they needed to triple his speaking fees. It's laughable, and it's kind of insulting, I think, to the American people that they just expect to sort of aw shucks their way through this and not explain it.
I've been surprised that you personally haven't been as vilified as I thought you would be. Now, maybe you see it differently, and I know when you're in the middle of it all and you're in the firestorm, you have a different perspective. But I figured they would come after you and do everything they could to marginalize you, to dismiss you. My goodness, you got the New York Times, the Washington Post, you have your mainstream media iconic outlets who are happy to partner with you and tell this story. Do you suppose that's why they didn't put a big target on your back like they could have?
Well, they've tried to. Certainly you've got, David Brock and Media Matters, and you've got Paul Begala and James Carville saying, ridiculous things. But no, you're exactly right. When this book was finished, I went to the top investigative journalists at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the news division at Fox News, and at ABC News. And I said, look, we found some really interesting, compelling stuff. I'm going to share it with you early on and do what you always do, which is dissect, investigate, and see what you find. And what they found, of course, is that the reporting was correct and accurate. So while the Clintons continue to kind of paint this impression that I'm the hub of the vast right-wing conspiracy, it gets pretty hard to make that case when you've got the New York Times and ABC News confirming these facts. And I think this is the fundamental problem that they're facing is, people get corruption in government. People get pay to play. And the cases that I outline in the book, involving the speaking fees. Think about this for a second. Hillary is Secretary of State. This investment firm in Canada comes up and says, we want to pay you to do 10 speeches for $2 million. They've never paid for him to give a speech before. Bill says sure and does it, delivers the last speech. 2 months later, Hillary greenlights the Keystone XL pipeline. Who's that investment firm that paid Bill $2 million as Hillary was reviewing the pipeline? It was the largest single shareholder in the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, you could look at that and say that's a coincidence, but you see the same kind of thing again and again and again.